Once upon a time, climate change was a distant topic that merely appeared to be limited to classrooms and lecture halls, when few concerned scientists predicted worrying statistics on carbon emissions in the early 1990s. However, in the recent times, this has become a household name even in emerging economies such as Zambia, where effects of the near-global catastrophe are gradually changing the country's weather patterns. Severe storms and droughts are not strange in a country that has struggled to make its people adapt to the worsening global climatic problem that threatens socio-economic survival. To mitigate the issue, countries are bound by the 1992 United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Treaty to avoid dangerous climate change and reduce greenhouse gases below 2 degrees Celsius. In March 1995, the first Conference of Parties, known as COP, was held in the German capital Berlin, and following the meetings that have been held for nearly 3 decades, have had fractious debates on how much industrialized nations, who are large polluters, must contribute finances to save the planet. This year, COP27 is held on the African soil in the Egyptian resort town of Sharm el-Sheikh, where world leaders will make follow-ups on last year's Glasgow COP26 discussions as guided by the 2015 Paris Agreement, but the talks still face thorny issues which are largely on unfulfilled promises by economic heavyweights to honor financial commitments to combat the worsening climate situation. President Hakainde Hichilema is among world leaders attending the summit segment for heads of state and government as the country seeks to promote a green and clean economy.
This is a very important motivation for us all to continue with our climate change mitigation efforts, in addition to, honestly speaking, to making this contribution, commitment, obligation met as a measure of credibility.
But sentiments by other speakers highlight lack of agreement among governments to reduce pollution.
The 2 largest economies, the United States and China, have a particular responsibility to join efforts to make this pact a reality. And this is our only hope of meeting our climate goals.
But the simple political will that is necessary, not just to come here and make promises, but to deliver on them.
The future is at stake, mostly young children. We're not sure whether we are heard when we speak or we're just ignored. But let the African COP be a different COP. Let the African COP listen to the biggest stakeholders. Let the African COP be an action COP. Politicians, when you stand up to talk, my generation requests that speak like there is an emergency. Speak like you are not barren.
Africa only releases about 4% of the greenhouse gases, yet the continent is of the worst hit with persistent famine in Kenya, Somalia, Ethiopia, and severe flooding recently recorded in Nigeria. Other recent disasters were in Pakistan, where thousands perished in the worst historic flooding of that country, and scientists predict the worst is yet to come, and it is poor countries that will experience humanitarian crisis as a result of failure to minimize carbon emissions that have sharply risen since the 1850s at the start of the Industrial Revolution. Victoria Kayeye Yambani, Diamond News.